Hey guys, it is me, Jacqueline. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome this is your first time here. For today's video, I have my most anticipated book releases for 2018. I have a total of 17 books to mention. One is actually currently already released, but I'm still going to talk about it because I'm currently reading it. I'm absolutely loving it. But anyway, let's get on to the video because I have so many amazing books to talk about. I have a feeling this video is going to be very long. So the first book I have is the one I am currently reading and is the one that is already out, and that is The Cruel Prince, and this is from Holly Black. It's a YA fantasy novel and it was released on January 2nd. This is going to be a really hard book to summarize since I am currently reading it. I'm more than halfway through it, so once I do get done with it, I am planning on doing a book review. Let me know down below if you would like it to be only non-spoilery or if you would like me to do a discussion portion in that review. But basically, in this book, we follow our main character, Jude, and when she was 7, her parents were murdered. What ends up happening is the person or the thing that murdered her parents takes her and her siblings to the Fae realm. So we end up following Jude and her sisters 10 years later and seeing how they sort of have to almost adapt to the Fae realm and the whole dynamics of the Fae realm, stuff like that. It's a fantastic book so far. I'm loving the characters and the Fae aspect, the writing. This is my first Holly Black book and I have a feeling I will definitely be reading more because I love her writing style, but if you are interested in this book, I would highly recommend to pick it up. The next book I have is The Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is from Tricia Levenseller. This book comes out on February 27th, and it's actually the sequel to one of my favorite books of 2017, which was The Daughter of the Pirate King. If you haven't heard of this book, I will leave my video review up in the cards as well as down below. It is a non-spoilery video review, but basically in this series we follow our female protagonist who is a captain of a pirate ship, which is so kick-ass. If you don't know, I absolutely love pirates so much. So when I first heard about this book, I was really excited about it and I absolutely fell in love with our female protagonist and how spunky and such a kick-ass she is. I also love the whole world dynamic and the little bit of the twist that is featured in this book, and the ending definitely left me wanting more, so I cannot wait to see what happens in this sequel. I do actually already own the sequel in ARC form, so I definitely will be reading that sometime soon and definitely will be getting a book review out for you guys. The next book I have is also released on February 27th, and that is The Heart of Iron, and this is from Ashley Poston, and I am super excited to read this book because it is blurbed as being inspired from the story Anastasia, which I absolutely loved watching the Disney film growing up, so that made me really excited. And then on top of that, it involves pirates in space. I am so for this book. I cannot wait to read it. I've heard really great things actually about the author's other works. Like, I know she wrote the book Geekerella. I still haven't read it, but yet again, heard great things, so I can't wait to see how I feel about this one. The next book I have is Restore Me, which is from Tahereh Mafi, and this one comes out on March 6th. We have a ton of March 6th releases, by the way, and that's actually my dad's birthday, fun fact. But this book specifically is actually the 4th book, a part of the Shatter Me series. If you haven't heard of Shatter Me, it was like a super popular book back in the day. I read the entire trilogy. I did enjoy the trilogy. I love Tahereh Mafi's writing style, and that's why I think I'm mostly looking forward to this, because I do love her writing style, and I am interested in getting back into this world. Yet again, I haven't read the original series in a long time, but before this is released, I am planning on reading the original trilogy and hopefully getting individual book reviews out, and then once this is released, I will get a book review out for it as well. But let me know if you're excited for this. At first, I was a little bit iffy, but I think I definitely am anticipating it and just want to see what direction she'll take us in. The next book I have is Children of Blood and Bone, and this is from Tomi Adeyemi. I think that's how you pronounce the author's name. If I did say it incorrectly, I do apologize. If someone would like to correct me down below, I'd very much appreciate it. But it's actually the author's debut novel, and I've heard utterly fantastic things. I haven't actually read too much about this book because I do want to go into it blind, but what I have seen is so many people have been loving this book. And this is not only the author's debut novel, but it's already been bought for a film, which is amazing. This is a young adult fantasy novel. I know it has magic involved and different magic systems, and our main female protagonist is sort of getting revenge for what happened with her family. But yet again, I'm super excited to read it. I do have a ARC copy, so whenever I do get to the book, I will definitely be reviewing it for you guys. Yet again, we have another March 6th release, which is The Wicked Deep, and this is from Shay Earnshaw. This is a YA paranormal novel, and in this book we follow three sisters who are witches. I'm actually going to read the blurb that is featured on Goodreads because that got me to want to read this book, and also I love reading books about witches in general. But it says, Hocus Pocus and practical magic meets the Salem witch trials in this haunting story about three sisters on a quest for revenge and how love may be the only thing powerful enough to stop them. The final March 6th release I have is Pacifica from Kristen Simmons, and this is a young adult fantasy novel, and this one is actually another pirate book that features a kick-ass main female character, but the little twist with this one is the world itself is actually post-apocalyptic and there are fantastical elements involved, so I can't wait to see how the pirates and the post-apocalyptic world will mix. The next book I have is Ace of Shades, and this is from Amanda Foody, and this one comes out on April 10th. It's actually a young adult fantasy novel, and in this book we follow our main character who's going to the City of Sin to find her mother and ends up having an adventure. This book has a magic system and it also involves spies and the mafia, so I can't wait to see what it is all about because it sounds very different from anything else that is coming out this year. I have another April 10th release, and that is The Dreamer, and this is from L.E. Delano, and this is the sequel to The Traveler, which was actually one of my favorite books of 2017. I really loved sort of the cliffhanger that The Traveler had, so I definitely will be reading The Dreamer to see exactly what happens next in this little series. But if you haven't heard of The Traveler is basically about our main characters who are time travelers in this sense, but they travel to different dimensions, and what basically happens is they end up going into their specific character in that dimension. It's a really interesting concept. I love the way it was sort of all figured out, and also our characters in general. It's a fun, fast-paced book. Really easy to read. It wasn't like the perfect book in my opinion, but it was definitely such a fun experience that I can't wait to read the next one. Next, I have Fairyborn, which is from Claire Legrand, and this is actually another YA fantasy novel, and this one comes out on May 22nd. I actually met this author and she was super sweet. I have two of her other books. I haven't read them, but I hope that this will actually be the first one I read, and then if I enjoy this one, I will definitely move on to her other ones because this one sounds amazing. The blurb for this one says, the stunningly original must-read fantasy of 2018 follows two fiercely independent young women centuries apart who hold the power to save their world or doom it. And I know the one girl specifically, she has to prove that she has these 7 magical abilities in this sort of like trial, and I don't know, it sounds very intense, definitely up my alley, and I can't wait to see what it is all about. Next, I have Legendary, and this is from Stephanie Garber, and this one is coming out on May 29th. It's actually the sequel to Caraval from Stephanie Garber, so this was one of my favorite books of last year. I really did enjoy it, and especially enjoyed it enough to want to pick up the sequel, but specifically this ending had me wanting more, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in this next book. If you want to know my thoughts on this one, I'll leave my review up in the cards, but I did enjoy the whole fantasy aspect, and this was the author's debut novel, so I can't wait to honestly also see how this author will sort of expand and change and develop as a writer between this book and this next one. Next, I have A Thousand Beginnings and Endings, and this is actually coming out on June 26th. This is a collection of short stories that are from 15 different authors, and basically these short stories are reimagined versions of folklore and mythology from East and South Asia. Some of the authors included are Melissa De La Cruz, Julie Kagwa, Renee Ahdieh, and one of my favorite authors, Roshani Chokshi, so I cannot wait to see everyone's stories. I have a feeling this is going to be a great bind-up. The next book I have is These Rebel Ways. This comes out on August 7th, and it's actually a fantasy historical fiction. Very different from a lot of other books that I mentioned on this list, and honestly when I was looking up the releases that were coming out this year, I saw a lot of the same thing. There's like a lot of princess and royalty books coming out, but In this one, we're following our three main characters. One is a soldier, one is a pirate, and the other is a heretic, and they all live in the same world, and eventually they're going to come together, and I can't wait to see how or why. This is also going to be an LGBTQ book, which is awesome. I heard there's a lot of like great sort of fantastical elements involved, and I heard these characters are wonderful, so I can't wait to personally experience that. Also, we all know I have a huge thing for pirates, so I cannot wait to see how these pirates are going to be. Then I have the Star Touched Stories, which is coming out on August 7th. This is like 2.5 in the Star Touched Queen series. If you don't know, Star Touched Queen is the first book, and then Crown of Wishes in the second book. So this is a collection of short stories. I cannot wait. Yet again, Roshani Chokshi is one of my favorite authors, and I love basically everything she writes, so I will definitely be anticipating this book. I know she is coming out with another book this year, but that doesn't actually have a release date attached to it. It's called The Gilded Wolf. I'm all about it, so whenever that does have a date, I will definitely be anticipating it. Hopefully it does come out this year and it's not pushed back to next year. And then the last book I have is The Queen of Air and Darkness, and this is from Cassandra Clare, and this book comes out on December 4th. I cannot wait to read this, even though I haven't read the second book part of the Dark Artifices series. This is going to be the third. The first one is Lady Midnight. I know a lot of people were wondering why the second book wasn't on my favorite books of 2017 list, and that's just because I hadn't read it yet. So I will definitely be getting it to this year, and I will be having a book review up on my channel once I do. And then once this book comes out, I will definitely have a review up on my channel. I have a feeling I'm going to not only love the second, but definitely love this one as well, because I absolutely adored Lady Midnight. Like, I remember I was just Snapchatting you guys, and I was like sobbing in the snaps. It was not pretty. So those were my most anticipated book releases for 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Also, don't forget to comment what your most anticipated book releases are for 2018. If you share any of these with me, if you are now interested in them, if you've read them, I love hearing your thoughts. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!